The blast door shuddered under another impact. Corporal Jason Chen pressed his back against the cold metal, one hand steadying the small figure behind him, the other gripping his sidearm. The princess, barely 7 years old by human reckoning, clutched the fabric of his tactical vest with both hands. Her violet eyes were wide, pupils dilated in the dim emergency lighting of the royal safe room. "Soldier." The voice came from the holographic projection dominating the center of the chamber. Queen Veshtara of the Kalesh Dominion spoke with the kind of stillness that preceded either mercy or execution. "Explain why my daughter's primary guardian lies dead, and you have taken his place." "Commander Telvar took shrapnel to the chest during the initial breach, Your Majesty. His last order was to get the princess to safety. I followed it." Another impact. Dust rained from the ceiling. The princess whimpered, and Chen shifted his stance, keeping his body between her and the door. The queen's image flickered, but her gaze never wavered. Behind her, Chen could see the command bridge of the Royal Dreadnought, officers moving with controlled urgency. "You are human," the queen said. "Yes, ma'am. My protocols do not permit non-Kalesh to touch royal blood." "Your protocols didn't account for assassins breaching the palace during a diplomatic reception?" Chen's voice remained level. "Ma'am." "He stopped them," she whispered in accented standard. "He put himself between me and the shots." The queen's expression remained unreadable, her silver skin reflecting the bridge lights like polished chrome. The Kalesh were beautiful in the way that predators were beautiful. Elegant, dangerous, ancient. They had ruled this sector for 3,000 years, before humanity stumbled out of Sol System, with combustion drives and audacity. "Princess Lyra," the queen said softly, "are you injured?" "No, mother." "Then you will be silent while I address this soldier." The child's hands tightened on Chen's vest, but she said nothing. Chen noted it, the discipline, the immediate obedience, despite obvious fear. Royal training started early among the Kalesh. "Corporal Chen." The queen leaned forward slightly. "The safe room's defenses will hold for approximately 8 minutes before those doors fail. My forces cannot reach your position in less than 12. You understand what this means?" "Yes, ma'am." "First, you may attempt to fight when they breach. You will die. My daughter will likely be taken hostage. Second, you may surrender and hope they value prisoners. You will both likely die. Third, you may end my daughter's life quickly and then your own, denying them their prize." Chen felt the princess stiffen behind him. He kept his eyes on the queen. "Ma'am, I have a fourth option." For the first time, something shifted in the queen's expression. Not quite interest. Not quite surprise. "Speak." "There's a maintenance shaft 3 meters to my left. Original blueprints show it connects to the old palace infrastructure before the renovations. It's not in current security maps because it was sealed off 40 years ago." "How do you possess this information?" "I read, ma'am. Been stationed here 6 months as part of the Human Kalesh Exchange Program. Spend my off hours in the Royal Archives. Old architecture fascinates me." The queen was silent for 3 seconds. Behind her, one of her officers moved closer, speaking too quietly for Chen to hear. "The shaft, if it exists and remains accessible, would take you deeper into the compromised sections of the palace. You would be moving toward the enemy, not away. But they're expecting us to hunker down or try to reach the extraction points. They won't be watching the abandoned sectors. And if the shaft is collapsed, sealed, then we're no worse off than we are now. Closer." The emergency lights flickered. The princess spoke, her voice small but clear. "Mother, I trust him." The queen's gaze shifted to her daughter. Something moved across her face. Too quick for Chen to identify, gone before he could name it. "Corporal Chen, if my daughter dies because of your plan, I will have your entire species declared unwelcome in Kalesh space. Every human station, every colony within our borders will be evacuated. Every treaty, voida, every alliance ended." "Understood, ma'am. If she lives, you will have earned a debt that even my crown cannot easily dismiss." "I'm not doing this for a reward, Your Majesty." "No," the queen said quietly, "you are not. That is why I am permitting it." She paused. "My daughter's life is worth more than pride or protocol. Bring her home, soldier." The hologram vanished. Chen turned to the princess. "Can you climb?" "Good. Stay close. Stay quiet and do exactly what I say." "Can you do that?" "Yes." Shen moved to the wall, running his hands along the seams until he found what he was looking for, a panel slightly different from the others. He pulled his combat knife and wedged it into the gap. The panel resisted, then gave with a metallic groan. Behind it, darkness yawned. The blast door screamed as something began cutting through it. Chen activated his helmet light and looked down at the princess. Ready? She took his hand. They dropped into the shaft as the door finally gave way and the safe room filled with plasma fire. The shaft was tighter than Chen had hoped. He descended first, testing each handhold, calling up quiet instructions to the princess. She followed without complaint, her smaller frame actually advantageous in the cramped space. Above them, he could hear shouts, the distinctive whine of Kalesh weaponry, and then an explosion that made the shaft vibrate. "They're destroying the safe room," the princess whispered. "Looking for bodies." "Probably," Chen agreed. He didn't add that they'd also be scanning for life signs, heat signatures, anything that might indicate escape. The old shaft's insulation was their only advantage, ancient radiation shielding that played havoc with modern sensors. They descended in silence for what felt like hours but was probably 20 minutes. Chen's arms burned. His ribs, bruised from earlier impacts, sent sharp complaints with every movement. He ignored them. Above him, the princess climbed with grim determination, her breathing controlled, her movements deliberate. She was 7 years old, and she was climbing down a maintenance shaft while assassins hunted her, and she wasn't crying. Chen respected that. The shaft ended at a junction platform barely wide enough for both of them to stand. Chen clicked his light to low setting and studied the 3 tunnels branching away into darkness. His mental map of the old palace suggested the rightmost passage led toward the service levels, the center toward the throne room complex, the left toward the throne room complex, the left toward the royal guard barracks before they were relocated during the expansion. "Which way?" the princess asked. "Trying to decide. Your security forces will be concentrating on the main palace sections. The assassins will be doing the same, trying to complete their mission or extract. We need somewhere neither group is likely to be." "The old barracks," Lyra said immediately. "They were abandoned because of the radiation leaks from the early shield generators. The area is still technically quarantined." "That's good thinking. Mother makes me study palace history. She says a ruler who doesn't know her own house is a fool." "Did. They took the left tunnel. This one was wider, clearly designed for regular foot traffic rather than emergency access." Chen kept his sidearm ready, his light pointed downward to minimize detection. Every 20 meters he stopped, listening for any sound that didn't belong. On the 3rd stop, he heard voices. He killed the light instantly, pulling the princess close against the wall. They stood frozen in absolute darkness. The voices grew closer, rough, speaking in traitors' cant, the lingua franca of mercenaries and criminals across a dozen systems. "Said the kid would be in the safe room. Obviously not there now, genius. Whole sector's locked down. We need to extract before..." The voices passed, heading in the opposite direction. Chen waited a full 2 minutes after silence returned before reactivating his light. "Mercenaries?" he murmured. "Not political extremists?" "Someone hired them." "Does it matter who?" Lyra asked. "Might matter later. For now, we just need to survive." The barracks appeared without warning. A massive set of double doors, still bearing the old royal seal, a quarantine warning prominently displayed in 3 languages. Chen approached carefully, scanning for any sign of recent activity. The dust lay thick and undisturbed. He tried the door. Locked, but the mechanism was ancient, designed before modern encryption. Chen pulled a small toolkit from his vest, standard issue for field repairs, and went to work. The princess watched in silence, occasionally glancing back the way they'd come. "You're very brave," Chen said quietly, not looking up from the lock. "I don't feel brave. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what needs doing despite the fear." "Is that from human philosophy?" "From my grandfather. He was a Marine. Fought in the Titan Uprising." Chen eased the door open, sweeping the interior with his light. The barracks stretched before them. Rows of empty bunks, lockers standing open, the detritus of a garrison that had evacuated in a hurry 40 years prior. They moved inside. Chen closed the door and jammed it with a piece of broken furniture. Not much of a barrier, but it would slow anyone down, make noise. "We rest here for 30 minutes, he said. "Drink some water. Catch our breath. Then we figure out our next move." Lyra settled onto one of the bunks, her legs dangling. She looked impossibly small in the space designed for adult Kalesh warriors. Chen pulled out his canteen and handed it to her. "Sip slowly. We might need to make it last." She drank, then handed it back. "Corporal Chen, may I ask you something?" When Commander Telvar died, you could have run. You could have tried to save yourself. No one would have blamed you. You're not even Kalesh. Jen took a drink himself, considering his answer. Your mother asked me something similar. And what did you tell her? Not really. He capped the canteen. Truth is, Princess, I stayed because it was the right thing to do. I took an oath when I joined the service. To protect those who can't protect themselves. To stand between the innocent and harm. That oath doesn't have exceptions for species or convenience. Humans are strange, Lyra said softly. We've been told that. Not really. They answer when I ask questions, but they don't. They treat me like a statue. Something precious to protect, but not a person. The formal distance. Yes, but you talked to me.
In the safe room, you explained things.
You asked if I could climb. Seemed relevant to know if my plan would work. You treated me like I had a brain. You do. A good one, clearly. The princess swung her legs, thinking. When we get out of here, I'm going to tell Mother that I want you assigned as one of my permanent guards. I appreciate that, but I'm only here on a 6-month exchange posting. After that, I rotate back to human space. Mother is the queen. She can change postings. Before Chen could respond, his comm unit crackled. It had been dead since the initial attack. The palace's communication systems jammed or destroyed. But now, faintly, a signal was pushing through. Repeat, all loyal forces converge on throne room. The attackers are attempting to seize the crown chamber. All forces converge. The message cut off. Chen stood, moving to the barracks' command station. The old systems were offline, but some of them might still have residual power, might still be connected to the palace's buried infrastructure. He found what he was looking for. A backup terminal. Its screen cracked, but functional. He powered it on, and after a moment's hesitation, it flickered to life. The display showed a schematic of the palace, red dots marking enemy positions, blue dots showing loyal forces. The red dots were everywhere, the blue dots were being systematically eliminated. They're losing, Lyra said, standing beside him. Chen nodded. The assault wasn't just about kidnapping the princess. It was a full coup attempt, timed perfectly during the diplomatic reception when the palace guard would be spread thin, focused on protocol rather than defense. The crown chamber, Chen muttered, studying the map. They're trying to access it. Why? The crown isn't just ceremonial, Lyra explained. It's the key to the planetary defense grid. Ancient technology from the First Dominion. Whoever wears it can command the orbital platforms, the shield arrays, everything. If they take it, they control the entire planet. Chen felt his stomach drop. And with your mother off-world on the Dreadnought, they can threaten to destroy the capital unless she surrenders. Chen studied the map. The old barracks were 3 levels below the crown chamber, connected by what looked like a direct service elevator, an elevator that probably hadn't been maintained in decades. We need to get there first, he said. We? Lyra's voice was small. The enemy thinks you're dead or captured. They're not expecting anyone to come from below. If we can reach the chamber, lock it down from the inside using your royal clearance. The chamber will recognize my bloodline, Lyra said slowly. I can seal it. But, Corporal, there are 2 of us, and dozens of them. Then we'll have to be smarter than they are. Chen checked his sidearm. Half a magazine. He had 2 more on his belt. Not much for a last stand, but it would have to do. He knelt down, looking the princess in the eye. I need you to understand something. Where we're going, it's going to be dangerous. More dangerous than the shaft. I might not be able to protect you completely. If something happens to me, then I'll keep going, Lyra said firmly. I'll seal the chamber and hold it until Mother's forces arrive. You're 7 years old. I'm the crown princess of the Kalesh Dominion. Age is irrelevant to duty. Chen saw her mother in that moment. The same steel, the same absolute conviction. He nodded. All right, Your Highness. Let's go save your kingdom. The service elevator was exactly where the schematics indicated, behind a locked panel in what used to be the barracks armory. The armory itself had been stripped long ago, but Chen found a few items the evacuating guards had missed. A smoke grenade with an expired date, a half-empty battery pack, and, surprisingly, a ceremonial blade with an edge that had kept its sharpness despite decades of neglect. He gave the blade to Lyra. Last resort only. Understand. She took it with both hands, nodding solemnly. The elevator groaned when Chen activated it, the machinery protesting 4 decades of disuse. For a terrible moment he thought it wouldn't move. Then, with a shudder that rattled his teeth, the platform began to ascend. 3 levels. The elevator crawled upward, each meter accompanied by mechanical screams that surely announced their presence to anyone within 100 meters. Chen kept his weapon ready, eyes on the shaft above them, waiting for the moment when someone would look down and start shooting. They rose through darkness and dust, through layers of abandoned infrastructure and forgotten rooms. The palace had been built and rebuilt over centuries, each generation adding to the structure, creating a labyrinth of old and new, functional and forgotten. The elevator jerked to a stop. The doors didn't open automatically. Chen had to force them, the ancient hydraulics having long since failed. They opened onto a corridor Chen recognized from his archive studies, the processional hall which led directly to the crown chamber. It should have been guarded by 20 elite warriors. Instead, it was empty except for the bodies. Chen moved forward carefully, checking each fallen guard. All Kalesh, all loyal forces based on their insignia, all killed within the last hour. Plasma burns, blade wounds, and one whose neck had been broken with professional efficiency. "Don't look," he told Lyra, but she was already looking, her face pale but composed. "I know them," she whispered. "Captain Deshra, Lieutenant Vental. They trained me in ceremonial protocol." Chen wanted to offer comfort, but there was no time. He could hear sounds ahead, voices, the hum of cutting equipment, someone shouting orders. The attackers were at the crown chamber doors. He pulled Lyra into a side alcove, a ceremonial niche that had once held a statue of some ancient Kalesh hero. From here, he could see the chamber entrance, massive doors inscribed with 3,000 years of royal lineage. A dozen figures in combat armor worked on breaching them, while others stood guard. Too many. Far too many. Chen's mind raced through options, discarding each as quickly as they formed. Direct assault was suicide. The smoke grenade might create confusion, but only for seconds. Waiting meant the doors would be breached and the crown taken. Then Lyra tugged his sleeve. "The ventilation," she breathed, pointing upward. Chen looked. The processional hall had been designed to impress, its ceiling soaring 15 meters high, decorated with intricate metalwork that included, yes, ventilation grates large enough for a small person to navigate. "I can fit," Lyra said. "I can go through the vents, enter the chamber from above, and seal it before they breach the main doors." "Absolutely not. The only way... It's the only way. I'm not sending a 7-year-old girl alone into... This is my duty, Corporal. My bloodline, my kingdom, my responsibility." Chen stared at her. Every instinct screamed against it. But she was right, and they both knew it. "I'll create a distraction," he said finally. "Pull their attention away from the chamber. You go up, through the vents, and seal yourself inside. Your mother's forces will breach through eventually. You just have to hold until they do." "What about you?" "I'll be fine." She looked at him with eyes far older than 7 years. "You're lying. But my job is getting you safe, not surviving." Lyra reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cooler than human. Smoother, but the gesture was universal. "When I'm queen," she said softly, "I will remember this. I will remember you. I promise."
"Up you go, Your Highness."
"Make them work for it." He boosted her up to the nearest decorative ledge, watched her scale the wall with the same determination she'd shown in the shaft. When she reached the vent and disappeared inside, Chen felt something twist in his chest. Then he stepped out into the corridor, raised his sidearm, and fired 3 shots into the ceiling above the breach team. Every head turned. "Gentlemen," Chen said calmly, switching his aim to the nearest attacker, "I believe you're trying to steal something that doesn't belong to you." Chen had already moved, diving behind a pillar as plasma bolts scorched the air where he'd been standing. He returned fire, not trying to hit anyone, just keeping their attention fixed on him. Above, unseen, Lyra crawled through the vents toward the crown chamber. Chen emptied his magazine, dropped it, slapped in a fresh one without breaking rhythm. The attackers were advancing, using proper fire and movement tactics. Professional soldiers, not common mercenaries. Someone had invested serious resources into this coup. A bolt caught his shoulder, spinning him around. The pain came a second later, bright and sharp. Chen gritted his teeth and kept shooting. He had one job: buy time. The smoke grenade. He pulled it, yanked the pin, and threw it into the advancing formation. It detonated with a hiss, filling the corridor with thick gray smoke. Chen used the cover to fall back, retreating deeper into the hole. His shoulder was bleeding badly. His vision swam. but through the smoke and chaos he could see the crown chamber doors. Still sealed, still secure. Hold on, Princess. Just a little longer. Someone emerged from the smoke, a Kalesh warrior in black armor, blade drawn. Chen raised his weapon, but the warrior was faster, striking it from his hand. The blade came around in a killing arc. Chen caught the warrior's wrist, using momentum to throw them both to the ground. They grappled, rolling, each seeking advantage. The Kalesh was stronger, but Chen had gravity and desperation. He got his hand on the ceremonial blade Lyra had dropped when she climbed, and drove it up under the warrior's armor. The Kalesh gasped and went still. Chen pushed the body aside and tried to stand, failed. His legs weren't responding properly. The shoulder wound he realized distantly. Hit an artery, losing too much blood. More attackers coming through the smoke. Chen dragged himself toward the chamber doors, leaving a red trail. Not crawling away, crawling toward. Making himself the target, the threat, the thing they had to deal with before they could focus on the breach. Boots appeared in his vision. Someone kicked him onto his back. Faces looked down at him, weapons pointed at his chest. "Human," one of them said in accented standard. "Brave but foolish." Through the haze of pain and blood loss he heard it, a deep, resonant tone that made his bones vibrate. The crown chamber's seals, engaging. The attackers heard it too. They spun toward the doors, now glowing with ancient power, absolutely impenetrable. Inside, safe and alone, Lyra had done her duty. Chen smiled. Someone shot him. He stopped feeling anything. Darkness came. Light returned slowly, accompanied by pain and the smell of medical antiseptic. Chen opened his eyes to find himself in a bed, surrounded by equipment that hummed softly. A medical bay, though he didn't recognize the specific design. "You are awake." The voice was familiar. Chen turned his head. Too quickly the room spun, and found Queen Veshtra standing beside his bed. Not a hologram. The actual queen, in person, her silver skin luminous in the medical bay's lighting. Chen tried to sit up. Failed. "Princess is safe, thanks to you." The queen moved closer. "My forces retook the palace 6 hours after my daughter sealed the crown chamber. The conspirators have been captured or eliminated. The crown remains secure." "Good. The medical team worked for 3 hours to revive you. You have lost significant blood, suffered plasma burns to 30% of your body, and your right shoulder required complete reconstruction." The queen paused. "You should not have survived. Sorry to disappoint. My daughter has not left this medical bay since you were brought here. I finally ordered her to rest 2 hours ago. She refused until I personally guaranteed she would be woken the moment you regained consciousness." "She did well," Chen said. "She was brave. She tells me you gave her a blade and told her to make them work for it." Seemed appropriate. The queen was silent for a long moment. "Corporal Chen, you have created a significant diplomatic problem. Corporal Chen, you have created a significant diplomatic problem. One that can never be fully repaid. My daughter lives because you were willing to die for her. This creates complications. I was just doing my job." "No, you transcended your job. You challenged my protocols, ignored my warnings about humanity's place in Kalesh space, and treated my daughter as a person rather than a symbol." The queen leaned closer. "And in doing so, you have forced me to reconsider assumptions I have held for 300 years. Chen didn't know what to say to that. "Your species," the queen continued, "has been in space for barely 2 centuries. You have no great empires, no ancient bloodlines, no traditions stretching back millennia. We have looked upon you as children playing at civilization. Useful sometimes, amusing often, but not truly equals. And now I have watched a human soldier defend my daughter with his life. I have seen her trust him absolutely. I have witnessed courage that our own guards failed to demonstrate." The queen straightened. "I am forced to conclude that perhaps greatness is not measured in years, but in character." The door opened. Lyra rushed in, still wearing the simple clothes Chen had last seen her in, now cleaned but rumpled. She stopped at the bedside, her violet eyes wide. "You're awake. Hey, princess." The queen nodded once. Lyra climbed onto the bed, carefully mindful of the medical equipment, and wrapped her arms around Chen's uninjured side. "When they found you, you weren't breathing. Takes more than that to stop a Marine's grandson." She pulled back, studying his face. "Mother says you can't leave. You have to stay and be my guard. Forever." That's not exactly what I said, the queen corrected, but her tone was gentle. You said the blood debt means he's part of our house now. That's basically the same thing. Your Majesty, I'm honored, but I have obligations to my own service, which I have already negotiated with your command structure. They were remarkably cooperative once I explained the situation. The queen's expression remained neutral, but Chen suspected there had been nothing remotely resembling negotiation involved. You will retain your rank and pay within human military. However, you will also hold a position within the royal household. A unique arrangement, but these are unique circumstances. I don't understand. My daughter needs someone who sees her as a person, not just a crown, someone who will speak truth rather than protocol. Someone who has already proven they value her life over their own. The queen paused, and perhaps I need someone to remind me that wisdom sometimes comes from unexpected places. Lyra squeezed his hand. Please say yes. Chen looked at her hopeful face, at the queen's steady gaze, and thought about the shaft, the barracks, the corridor. Thought about a 7-year-old girl climbing through ventilation ducts to save her kingdom. Thought about her mother, powerful enough to command star systems, humble enough to admit she'd been wrong. Yes, he said. The princess beamed. The queen inclined her head, a gesture of respect that, Chen was beginning to understand, was rarely given to anyone. Then it is settled. The queen moved toward the door, then paused. Corporal Chen, my daughter tells me you read architectural history for recreation. Yes, ma'am. The royal archives contain records dating back 6,000 years. Many have not been reviewed in centuries. If you are to be part of this household, you should understand its full history. She almost smiled. I suspect you will find it fascinating. Some. The medicine helps. I was scared. In the vent. I could hear you fighting, and I wanted to go back, but I knew I had to keep going. That's what makes you a good leader, princess. Doing what needs doing even when it's hard. You said that before, about bravery. Still true. She was quiet for a while. Then, Chen? Yes. For treating me like I was smart enough to help. For trusting me. Chen thought about everything that had happened. About a child who climbed without crying and sealed a chamber alone in the dark. About a queen who could admit error. About the strange paths that led a human soldier to an alien planet, and a moment that changed everything. Thank you for being worthy of that trust, he said. Outside the medical bay, the palace was being rebuilt. The conspirators were being interrogated. The diplomatic reception that had been interrupted was being rescheduled. Life, in all its complicated glory, was returning to normal. But something had shifted, something fundamental. A human had defended a Kalesh princess. A queen had acknowledged worth beyond tradition. A child had proven capable of extraordinary courage. The galaxy, Chen thought, was going to have to adjust its assumptions. Lyra fell asleep against his side, her breathing soft and steady. Chen looked down at her peaceful face and felt the weight of the responsibility he'd accepted. Not just guarding a princess, but helping shape whoever she would become. It was a heavy burden. He found he didn't mind it at all.